We're here at the CROI in Boston, and we're here with John Pottage, who is the Chief Medical and Scientific Officer of ViiV Healthcare. And it is a corporation that is based with Glaxo.
Yes.
And we appreciate the time that you're taking with us today, because we're going to talk about the acquisition of Bms Pipeline and the materials that they decided to not move forward and do any HIV, so you picked that up. And tell us about that, John.
Yeah, so it's an extremely exciting, I think, development for ViiV Healthcare. So it really fulfills our mission, really adds to it. And so, as you know, ViiV Healthcare is devoted only to the treatment of HIV disease in terms of developing medicines for it. What BMS has is a very robust discovery unit. And what they're able to do, and they have a good track record and have been bringing forward medicines for actually a number of decades now. The group works in HIV as well as hepatitis, but what we've acquired from this transaction, which we closed on Monday, so it's all signed and sealed, we have brought forward two different deals technically. One is the discovery unit with all the kind of preclinical assets that they have. So they have a whole host of different mechanisms, unique mechanisms that aren't on the market. And so we look at the development of inhibitors for allosteric integrase inhibitors. Sometimes people call that lead-JEF inhibitors. They're working on capsid inhibitors, maturation inhibitors. And actually there's a biologic that they're working on, which is called combinectin, which is a protein strand which actually blocks several steps devoted to entry of the virus. And actually at the CROI meeting there's a presentation by our new ViiV employee or colleague, by Mark Crystal is presenting that this morning. So that's the first kind of presentation of that newer form of therapy. So the discovery unit, as we said, comes with a number of people, and we're excited with that to continue to complement what we have going on at GlaxoSmithKline. So we have a discovery unit there. Now we have two. And both can work in concert, bringing forward new medicines to fulfill the medical needs. Now the second,
I was going to say, so this is not only, is this convergent, is this synergistic? And we talk about that in medicine, but we can also talk about that in discovery maybe.
Yeah, I think it's synergistic. And so what we have is points of complementarity, the groups working on different mechanisms, and I think where we head with the future, where we really think it's important to answer the medical needs, is to develop, one, new medicines with new mechanisms of action, and most of these are small molecules that are out on the market, and you take them orally. A second area that we're very interested in is the development of long-acting drugs. And at this meeting, we've had several presentations on a long-acting integrase inhibitor, cabotegravir, that we're developing.
Is this depot injection style?
It is.
Multiple months or something?
Yes, and so maybe you could give it once a month or once every 2 months. And so that's an important part of our approach going forward, to again give options to patients who don't want to take pills or where injections, infrequently as that, may help with a hectic lifestyle. And then the third area is in the area of biologics, whether it's antibodies or, as I mentioned, the combinectin, which is a protein. And so I think putting all those together, I think with this deal, we really enhance our capabilities down the line, 5, 10, 15 years, to keep moving with new products that we think will help patients. Now that's the discovery side, and so we're really augmenting, helping what we have already. But we also have a second part of the deal, which is bringing two later stage drugs. So those are in later stage clinical development, and they're both new mechanisms of action. So the first, and the one that's farthest along, is an attachment inhibitor. So this blocks the virus from coming into the cell. And so what it does is that it is being developed for people who are running out of options. So it's for people who have limited options and really need new medicine. So that's being brought forward for that, and it's in phase 3 clinical testing right now.
So this is a drug or a compound that could be used in concert with one other active drug? Or
with 1, 2, or more, but putting it part of a combination of medicines. And so obviously we like to be able to give at least 2, and so this adds to the armamentarium, again, for people who have lived with HIV a long time and are developing some resistance, and so
it's good that you're doing this, because we talk about the small, very small number of people who are in that category, and yet you're making that investment, which is really good. And I know we talked about also developing drugs that are for the pediatric population.
Yes.
And I think I was talking to World Health, and they were looking at also from the 0 to 2, for those that are born with it. Is this something you're working on as well?
Yeah, I think we have a huge commitment to the development of products for pediatrics, and I think it's important to note a couple parts there. One are adolescents, and so they're often left. They're kind of adults, but they're not really children. But there are really a lot of issues with adherence.
Yeah, I spoke to the World Health Organization about that, and we were saying that is a critical issue.
No, it is, and I think as we incorporate them into our clinical trials, and it was heartening when we brought out dolutegravir that the initial indication for it was for patients down to 12 years old. And now we've gone lower as we study younger and younger children, but we have a strong commitment to that. And so I think it's a testament to, again, what our business model is devoted to all patients with HIV. So often you run into other groups that just want to develop medicines for treatment-naive patients, or
where the money is.
Where the money is. But I think...
And I understand that you want to make money, but you also... There's a good amount of generosity in that, working in those areas that are needful, but not necessarily productive money.
So we're excited with that. So the BMS attachment inhibitor, which is for that limited group, but then we also have what's called a maturation inhibitor in phase 2 testing. And so there we're trying to figure out the right dose and take a look at its efficacy. And so that's coming across. And so both those studies are ongoing, and so we look in the next several years, hopefully, to bring those to the market. And again, I think the important point with both of them is that those are new mechanisms of action which don't exist out there. And so it adds to our armamentarium of different medicines with different mechanisms, because as you know, the virus is relentless in terms of its ability to develop resistance. We've gotten much, much better at preventing it, but we don't have it completely solved. So we always have to kind of stay out ahead of it. I think the lessons from other areas of infectious disease and antibiotics have to be listened to. And so there's a lot of issues where companies maybe thought, well, we don't think it's a big enough market, or for a variety of reasons. So they really kind of let the development of new antibiotics go. And so there hasn't been that emphasis. And what has happened is the bacteria have developed resistance, and we have bacteria now that are resistant to everything we have. So now there's kind of a resurgence of activity there. What I don't want to see happen, and I think ViiV is very devoted to this, is to continually develop new innovative medicines, approaches going forward, and not say right now, case solved, we don't have to do anything more going forward. And so it really comes back to the BMS acquisition that adds to our approach going forward. And it really, I think, has been met with a lot of positive feedback.
So is your scientific business plan, say, 5 or is it 10 years out there? I mean, you're looking, where are we going to be? What is this drug? What are we going to look like 10 years ahead?
I think we'll have a number of things happening and over the 5-10 year period. And I think as we develop a long-acting drug, so an additional approach for some patients, I think that will be important. We'll see how the antibodies develop. There'll be more and more experience with the new drugs that we have now, like dolutegravir. So I think as we think about it, we're always trying to think 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and so always trying to plot out what we need. And so again, this acquisition kind of helps us with that. We would love to put ourselves out of business, and so we would love to find a cure or something that's a permanent
Well,
remission.
just find another area to work in.
So that's okay. We'll go to bacteria, I guess. But I think that it is something that's down the line, and so we're certainly interested in that. And GSK, who owns us 80%, has partnered actually with the University of North Carolina to have a cure center.
So you're working in, the other things I was going to ask you is the cure, prevention, and vaccines.
Right.
Those are areas that you're...
Okay, so I'll just start with vaccines. ViiV does not directly work in vaccines, so that's kept separately from us. So GSK has a large vaccine business, and they move that forward. Now, if they did develop either a preventive or a therapeutic vaccine, certainly we would get involved, but we don't directly.
But that's down the line in very basic science.
That would be very down the line. In terms of prevention, we have a very strong effort there. And so one of the things when we create our R&D group, we do create these multidisciplinary groups that look across our portfolio. And so often you'll see drug companies are kind of siloed into a drug. So if, for example, from our company, you might say we have a dolutegravir team or a cabotegravir team, and they think about all the different applications like pediatrics or prevention. What we have is we have people who are head of prevention. So they look across our drugs and see how they can be applied. And the big effort we have going forward in prevention is primarily in cabotegravir, and it's the long-acting drug. And so we are, evaluating what's the best dose, how well it's tolerated, and taking that forward. And today we had a presentation of the Eclair Study that the group at Aaron Diamond Center presented, and it's a first step. So that's an early phase 2 study trying to get information on the pharmacology as well as side effects and tolerability. We also look at other approaches, and so interested in mucosal approaches or microbicides with our drugs, and so we've looked at Maravroc for that. So there's a number of initiatives going forward for that, but it is a very strong part of the company of prevention going forward.
So some of the, like the depot injection could be used as a, would you see that on every person going into with pills and then eventually converting to, or would you say it's safe enough? I mean, would you expect it eventually to be safe enough?
I think we'd love it that you'd be able to start it up without having a oral run-in. However, the drug is a new drug. It's not licensed yet.
So we're not there yet.
We have to do this safely and make sure that there's not any kind of immediate problems. And so that's why we're doing that.
So that would be a great prevention. I mean, there are people that are probably going to say, that's not for me because I want to do seasons of love or seasons of sex or whatever they call it.
Right.
But it is for some people that want to just do PrEP all the time.
Yeah, I think you think about people with a very hectic lifestyle where they're changing time zones and it's hard to take medicines on a regular basis. So I think it is kind of our position to provide options. So there's what works for some people may not for others, and it's the same in treatment with long-acting drugs. Some people would prefer taking pills; they don't want a shot. Other people are okay with that.
So now you own a chunk of a new company, an old company.
Yeah,
it's now new for you, but you're still collaborating with other companies.
Yes,
and I want to make that clear to our audience because frequently, and we say it repeatedly, that this is not, I mean, it used to be more you know,
Yes.
we're over here. We don't want you to know anything about what
Yes.
we're doing. But it seems there's this spirit of enthusiasm to get to a cure,
Yes.
and especially that. So there's this collaborative effort.
Right.
And so we have meetings where you attend and all the other companies attend,
Yes.
and they learn from each other. They understand where we are, so they can see how someone's progressing and say, well, we have something we might want to work together on.
Yes.
Because it seems as though the cure, much like anything else, like HIV itself, but the cure itself will probably be multifactorial.
Oh,
vector.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's no one group that can do it all. And so I think that that's really come through, as you mentioned, over the last several years. A number of groups have come together, bringing different disciplines, different companies, different academic groups, different government people from, say, the NIH. It's very important to have that. And it's actually been great interacting with all the different companies. And I think you're right. At least in HIV, there isn't, everyone's a competitor, but they're not a competitor. I mean, everyone's kind of focused on the patient, and the treatment is combinations of medicines, and no one company has all the medicines, and so you need to be together and work towards that common goal. Now, each company works hard on trying to develop better and better products, and that's what we've seen. I think if you look out over the 30 years of drug development, how much better the medicines have gotten.
They were hideous
it's
to begin
amazing.
with.
They were difficult.
Yeah, and so we're at the point where I almost use the term innocuous. I guess it is for
Not
many
quite,
people that
but
be the
yeah,
case, but
yeah.
and you're wanting to do the same for pediatric, which
Yeah.
and again I admire you and your corporate citizenship to move in that direction, because it's critical, and it's a small niche, but and it certainly isn't a niche in other countries. You know, you have,
No, it's obviously it's the bigger deal in sub-Saharan Africa,
and that's not where
Asia.
the money is.
No,
for sure.
but
it's where
that
the
doesn't-
disease is.
Yeah, but it doesn't dissuade us, and I think we're very important. And at this meeting, we're presenting a number of abstracts of pediatrics.
Well, I wish you luck with this new joint combination, this addition, this acquisition.
Yes.
And it is so appreciated that you took the time to explain it to us in a way that makes a great deal of sense to me, for sure.
Okay, well, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John.
That's great.